Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, _G Warner on Twitter. Don't forget that underscore. I guess I haven't enunciated that very well. Thank you for joining me. It's Friday night here in Dallas, Texas. I will get to a big story in a second, but if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Could really use, I think we're up to 46 subscribers. It's not great. So let's try to bash that number up as high as we can. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please give 5 stars, leave a review if you got a couple minutes. More of those means more podcasts. And I know that's exactly what you want. It's been a really good World Cup so far, and we're looking to keep that going. All lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early, or I guess at game time as well. Reduced Juice is offered on almost every game you want to bet, right up until game time, as I just said. Please follow the link found in the podcast description to fund your account and use promo code GW50, like G Warner 50, GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. So now you have an extra money supply in your account. Welcome to Bet Online or wherever you're playing. I suggest having as many outs as possible. So if you don't have a Bet Online account, I would suggest funding one just in case. You can do the Bet Online, or you can do Bitcoin, a lot of cryptos that are out there. I think deposit with a credit card, but all that stuff should work. The big story that I mean, there's a lot of rumors right now that Grant Wahl died in the stadium of the Netherlands-Argentina match today. I don't even know where to begin about that, especially because the Middle East doesn't have a great record on keeping journalists alive, and especially one that spoke out about homosexuality or LGBTQI plus. Really, really sad story if that's truly the case. But we're still trying to figure that out. And it's very late in Qatar, so it's very difficult to get an official statement. With that said, now that's been mentioned, it was a great day today of the quarterfinals. I decided to split up these two podcasts, try to go a little bit more in depth. There's only a few games going on, and the people spoke and they wanted stuff. They asked me on Twitter to go in deeper. So hopefully today got you that. Also, awesome finish to the Netherlands match. Wout Weghorst just completely delivering and somehow getting us in the back door, forcing extra time for the Dutch to end up getting eliminated, but enough to get me a second win on the day. So a perfect 2-0 on my bets, and won the best bet. Or the ultimate bet, ultimate best bet on the quarterfinal part 1 show. So we're flying. It's been a good tournament. We're staying hot. The last round of the knockouts was the first initial round of 16 of the knockouts wasn't great for me, but we're off to the best start we can be. Perfect so far, and we're going to keep doing it. So why don't we get into the numbers? The first match is Morocco and Portugal. There's been a fair amount of movement on Morocco so far. I was honestly hoping I would get +1. It opened at 3/4 of a goal. That's where it sits right now. Juice is split either way. And I gotta say, it was kind of trending towards +1. Now +1 is -152 at Bet Online. So that is out of my price range, but I'm still very interested in Morocco. And I figured I'll go through kind of who Morocco are, what they've done this tournament, and what we should expect from them in tomorrow's 9 a.m. Central Time kickoff. So Yassine Bono was awesome in the penalty shootout and really pushed Morocco past Spain. I agree with some of the stuff I read on Twitter. Morocco were very aggressive early, more aggressive than I expected, because you don't really want to be too aggressive against Spain because that leaves them opportunities and spaces, and they need the spaces to score. They have trouble. Portugal looks really great in their matchup, and we'll get to them in the second half of this, I guess, handicap. But I think Morocco are going to be good defensively in this one, as they have been all tournament. Now, their group was Canada, Belgium, and Croatia. I mean, not an easy group, and they actually won it. Probably were third most likely to win it. Canada, I think, was expected to finish last, but it wasn't too big of a difference between Morocco and Canada. Incredible performance so far by Morocco, mainly based on their defense. And I think it's going to be a very important part of this matchup as well, especially when you look at this number at 3/4 of a goal on the Asian handicap, where a single goal loss will return half of your stake, because you get half your bet at +1/2 and half your bet at +1. Over under here is it's 2.25 right now. It's been sitting there for most of the time since I've been following it. My number is pretty close to it. I had 2.18. And I got to say, I don't know. It's very juiced right now. All the juice right now is on the under. Actually, it might hit 2. It's after seeing Brazil, Croatia get goalless today, and then seeing a bunch of goals late for the Netherlands. I feel like goals are going to be much more at a premium at this round of the tournament. The teams are a lot better. It's a lot more, I guess, equal in talent. Though ultimately the one that had the biggest line today saw no goals. When I guess talking further about Morocco, so Yassine Bono is an incredible goalkeeper for Sevilla. Has been really bad, like the team has been this season. But he's completely shrugged it off and has done really well in this tournament. I want to say Morocco's only allowed 1 goal so far, and that's pretty hard to do considering they were playing. I mean, Belgium were supposed to be a favorite to potentially win this tournament, one of the favorites, not the favorite, but they did really well to get by them. And then Croatia, I mean, finishing above them because they got that last win on the final day against Canada was also really impressive. So when I look at their team, I do have some concerns with Aguerd, who's recently transferred from Rennes in France to West Ham. He hasn't played much this year due to injury and did come off what I thought was with an injury late. But all these guys were playing so deep in the matches that I don't know exactly if that was a safety situation and trying to prep them for the next round, if they didn't want them to take penalties. But there are some concerns in the back line based on health. And Aguerd is an important position player for them. He's a really good center back, young, but has a great future ahead of him, and I think is important in this team. Next to him is Roman Saiz, who was playing really well for Wolverhampton Wanderers when they were going well. It seems like the players' form dips as the team gets under pressure, unfortunately. But that's been a pretty solid back line. There's definitely been some concerns that I had about them being how good they were going to be in this tournament, but they've held their own to say the least. And the nicest thing about Morocco currently is how close they are to Qatar. I don't know exactly how close it is. I mean, western side of Africa versus the Middle East isn't exactly a stone's throw, but I guess there's a big Moroccan population in Qatar. So that's a great sign because Morocco have had a ton of fans. I expect Portugal will still have plenty. I mean, there's probably a lot of flights getting booked once they got the knockouts and then had a weekend match. But and of course, everyone wants to see Ronaldo, but who knows if he's starting? I'll guess that he's not. Going forward, I mean, or I guess on the wings, you can go forward with both Hakimi and Mazraoui. Mazraoui was kind of a surprising signing by Bayern Munchen. They picked him up, I believe, from Ajax and paid a good amount of money for him. Hakimi has been the Real Madrid, was on loan to Dortmund, and then now plays for Paris Saint-Germain. And he's a blazing speed that can run by literally anyone in this tournament. And I like his matchup, pretty much anyone who's up against, besides maybe Kylian Mbappe. In the midfield, we have Onyahi and also Amrabat and Amala. Don't know Amala or Onahi very well. Sofiane Amrabat plays really well and is actually a goal-scoring threat for Fiorentina. I expect in this matchup with Portugal, he'll be more defensive, and he's been pretty good and really running all over the place this entire tournament. I do have some concern about the fatigue levels because Morocco had to play an extra 30 minutes and penalty kicks in order to get to this stage while Portugal smashed Switzerland. But ultimately, if there's ever a time to get up, you have a big crowd behind you to stimulate your energy levels. And I think that matters a lot in this round. Hakim Ziyech finally back in the team after a big falling out with a previous manager. That's important. He hasn't really done a lot in this tournament, but is a very scary left foot distance shooter or creator that you have to worry about. Youssef En-Nesyri has not been good this season for temporada for Sevilla. Similar situation with Yassine Bono, the goalkeeper. Team has been bad and he hasn't been great either, but has been pretty good in this tournament. Not scoring a lot of goals, but at least being threatening, which is what you need, especially if you're relying on your defense. And Buffal on the left wing has been a really good creator in France, and I like his chances to really cause some problems for Portugal. So just to give the line again, Morocco plus 3/4, over under is 2.25, juice to the under, and I'm going to give best bets and an ultimate best bet, I guess, end of show. So stick around for that. Now I switch to Portugal, and I mean, they smashed Switzerland, and I was very surprised. I was on Switzerland, and I believe I was on the under, so that was not a great call. Lost both of them. And I tried to learn from that, and pretty much it all started wrong when Gonçalo Ramos, the replacement heir apparent for Cristiano Ronaldo, scored an incredible goal, unsavable, roofed it, and I was like, wow, didn't expect that. And that was a huge moment in the 17th minute, followed up by Pepe on a corner kick, getting lost by zonal marking, which I despise. And then from there, it got uglier and uglier and uglier, unfortunately. It was, I guess, 4-0 before Switzerland got a goal back. I don't really believe that Portugal are a great offensive team. They have a lot of great players, and I'm not saying that. I do think that they are better without Cristiano Ronaldo. And we saw that with Manchester United and his impact really on Bruno Fernandes. But I don't know that it's that big of a difference. I mean, what a start for Ramos. I mean, he was incredible. Hat trick and maybe I think his fourth cap for Portugal. And they certainly are the better team with a lot more threats, but I don't know that, or I guess from my point of view, I feel like there's a lot of overreaction to that awesome goal scoring performance. And it was against a good Swiss team, but I'm not sure they can really put two of those up back to back. When you look at the Portugal lineup, Pepe and Ruben Diaz in the center back position are pretty solid. I don't know that Morocco have a lot to bother them necessarily with their strikers. Haven't loved in Syria for a year and a half, essentially, or at least midway through last season at Sevilla. Injuries have played a role as well, but I think really the best offense for Morocco is their defense and trying to get on a counterattack with Ashraf Hakimi or with Mazraoui, more so Hakimi on the right side. And I feel like that could certainly be something that Portugal has to worry about, and they will be worried about it. But with Santos, who's more of a defensive manager than I think most at this level, and it's worked for him when they won the Euro, despite not winning a match, I think, the entire tournament in 2016, I want to say. I think I was in the Hamptons for that one. It was a good time. But I just don't know that Portugal are as offensively gifted as that performance last time looked. And unfortunately, with not a lot of people watching international play, especially, but even just soccer at these American books, I think they're going to be skewed to the last performance. And everyone believes that Portugal is going to roll over this Moroccan side. But I don't really see it because Morocco's defense has been awesome. And I think it's going to be hard for there to be goals scored in this matchup. Moving in front of Pepe and Ruben Diaz, or I guess staying in that back line, Diego Dallo has played pretty well for Manchester United, but was a surprise inclusion and start over Joao Cancelo. I want to say that there might be an injury there, but maybe that was a switch because Joao Cancelo can't really defend. And they felt maybe that they had a good enough offense. I mean, maybe that was the case. It's hard to pick the brains of these international managers because they don't really even, to me, I feel like they don't even know their players that well, especially with only about a week to train before the World Cup started. I think they're all figuring this out just as we are, which is, I think, good for underdogs. But look in the midfield, Otavio has been an awesome goal scorer for Portugal and can certainly do more of that. William Carvalho in the middle is more of a defensive stopper, but he has shown for Real Betis that he does have some goal scoring talents. Then you get to the really offensive players. Bernardo Silva plays in the midfield, but is really a wing. Not sure he's defending much. He probably is 110 pounds soaking wet. So there's not a lot of intimidation from him defensively, but he's a great creator, has a wand with his foot. Joao Felix, who's probably moving somewhere big. Atleti is probably going to be suffering for money wise, I think, sometime soon. And he's a great finisher, creator, everything. He's very scary. And I want to see him as little as possible if I'm backing under or Morocco. Ramos, I just don't know that he'll be able to kind of put up that same performance again. Certainly you have Cristiano Ronaldo waiting in the wings to come in off the bench if they need a goal. And I feel like in the 70th minute, if it's goalless or tied or they're even up one, I think he might come on to try to add some more goals. He's not going to help defensively really, but maybe he does a little bit more of that for the nation that he's from than the club teams he's played on. And then Bruno Fernandes has not been great for Portugal for a while, but is a very scary creator. And I wonder when his goal scoring will come, because it's been, I feel like, a long time since he's really been that impactful in a meaningful match. To summarize, I guess, so in terms of strategies here, I think Morocco are still going to play very defensively. They're going to do their best to make this as hard on Portugal to score as possible. It is, like I said earlier, Portugal, I think, are still more pragmatic and defensive than you'd want them to be, especially in a matchup like this where they are a much better side with a lot more goal scoring threats. I don't think they need to they wouldn't throw caution in the wind. I don't think Santos is the manager who would do that, but they certainly could use a more offensive game plan strategy lineup and really essentially leave the aged Pepe and Ruben Diaz to cover next to him. And maybe with Diego Dallo, if he starts again back there as their three defenders to really, I guess, stop 3-on-3v3 counterattacks from Morocco. My biggest concern with Morocco, I do, as an underdog player, I'm always interested in that side. Until I get +1, I don't think I'm into it. Um, at +1, I think I probably will play because that's a really important insurance goal. I think this is going to be a really tight match. I think it's going to be very hard for Portugal to show up and really put forth that same effort. I do have some concerns that Morocco coming off the 120 minutes and that they're going to try to play for another nil draw, then go to penalty kicks and try to win there. But I think my favorite play is under 2.25 in this one because it's a little bit backing Morocco and that defense. I also think it kind of supports Portugal playing a little bit conservatively, more conservatively than I would expect that they should based on the matchup differences here, or just really the talent between the two sides. I don't want to completely buy into Morocco's performance in this entire tournament, but they've been awesome. And I think the home crowd type of effect is really important. Maybe it won't be so lopsided for a knockout match in the quarterfinals and potentially Cristiano Ronaldo's last World Cup. But I think there's still going to be a support factor for Morocco. I'm not giving them a quarter of a goal or anything for home field advantage like I normally do for a European soccer match. But I do think that they're going to make it hard on Portugal. It's going to be hard for Portugal to follow up that goal scoring onslaught they put on Switzerland. And there's a good chance that these knockouts in the quarterfinals, there's a lot more nerves and they play a lot tighter. And I also feel like after watching the collapses from both Argentina and Brazil today, I think bad defenses, and so that's a little different because Portugal has much more accomplished players in their defense. But I think that also might put a little bit more fear into a leader, whether it's Morocco or Portugal. I think Morocco will defend like crazy if they take a lead, and probably not risk anything. But I also think they'll do that until they go behind. And once they go behind, that's the biggest question and when that happens. But Portugal, I don't think they have an easy route to goals through a really strong defensive team that's going to really try to lock in and keep the space as limited as possible for Portugal. Next, we'll go, and I guess actually before I do that, to advance here, we have Morocco plus 240, Portugal minus 290, $290 will win you 100. I don't know that I trust Morocco to get through because I don't know that I see their goal scoring options. Certainly in penalties, they can go any way, and Yassine Bono was so good against Spain. But that's a really tough thing to put your plus 240 on, hoping that you can get through penalty kicks. So probably nothing for me there, but definitely interested in under 2.25 and Morocco if they hit +1. I think I'll prioritize the under versus Morocco, though, even at +1. Next match is England and France. I mean, not much you can do better than this for history, considering these two nations were in war against each other for the entire history books, basically. I mean, Waterloo, we got Napoleon, but I'm also not a history teacher, so I will probably stop there. England is currently a very, very they're a pick 'em, but France is very juiced right now. England have been a quarter goal underdog this whole week. I imagine it will come back there before this kicks off, which is saying something because I think there's going to be a ton of English support there. Also, a lot of French. So I don't know if there's a huge, how do I say this? I'm not sure that there's a huge home field advantage either way. But the scariest part for fading France is because they're so strong. They have so much talent. They're missing some really important pieces, but it doesn't really matter because they have so many players to replace Karim Benzema, Christopher and Nkunku, and plenty of others as well. Lucas Hernandez as well. When I look at the French back line, that's a favorite. I'll go through them first. Hugo Lloris gives me some questions, but he doesn't really have a challenger within the French team. And is solid, can certainly make some big saves for you. Rafael Varane and Dian Upamecano, seems like that's going to be the central defensive pairing as it's been so far, ever since, I guess, the injury to Lucas Hernandez. Upamecano's got some mistakes in him, but he's still really solid, really fast, and really big, and that's a great combination for center back. Rafael Varane, really fast. I think that's what you get the most out of him. He's had some problems with playing the ball at his feet in high pressure situations. I remember a match at Man City for Real Madrid, but I don't really expect a ton of playing out of the back from France, though. That might be a strategy for very conservative Gareth Southgate to try to get England through to the next round. Theo Hernandez is a weak point potentially defensively because he pushes up the field and tries to play as a second left winger. And Kylian Mbappe doesn't really track back. So there's going to be an avenue on the right side for England, but I guess that's what Tchouaméni and Rabiot are there back to try to stop defensively. I consider Rabiot a much more offensive player than Tchouaméni, but Aurelien is an awesome young talent. It's going to be there for a long, long time. And the nice part, I guess, for England, if you're an England backer here, you're interested in them, fan of them, whatever, there's going to be a lot of opportunity on that right side. And I think unless France and Didier Deschamps does something different and pulls in a more defensive midfielder, there is potential for I guess some counterattacks or some running at people that could cause some problems for France. And they haven't really had to worry about any of their opponents so far. Even the Danes, I guess they did equalize late in the second half, but Kylian Mbappe did enough. And I feel like this is the first real big test from a big footballing nation with a similar interest and passion for the game. And I think that's going to be a little bit different for France because they haven't had to do that just yet. Ousmane Dembele is a great creator. Griezmann defends a lot more for France than he does for his club teams. And I expect he'll be a little bit better than he has been. But his goal drought has been really kind of scary. Olivier Giroud, bearing the lead a little bit. We'll get to Kylian in a second, but Olivier Giroud is an incredible goal scorer without many chances. They never really give him the ball, but they find him in the 18-yard box. His head is incredible at placing the ball in the corners, and in a tight match, he is the biggest I think concern for any of the English players. They'll probably know him well because he spent a lot of time in England, but that guy can score goals, and that's very scary, especially when you have Kylian Mbappe on the left wing, cutting in to his right foot where he can score from anywhere. He's the fastest player out there, will be causing a lot of problems for England. And ultimately is the best player in this whole tournament. I'm sorry for the Messi fans, but I don't even really think it's close. Messi's better from the free kicks, I'll give him that, but Kylian Mbappe is scary literally from minute 1 till minute 100 because they play so many in this World Cup, it seems. As for England, or I guess before I get to England, so strategy for France, they're kind of in Jogo Bonito style like Brazil. They're going to play to score goals. They're going to go offensively. They're going to be as open as they can be, maybe with a little bit more concern for England, a little more respect for England, but they want to score goals. It's great as a big favorite. They're not necessarily a huge favorite here, though, as it probably looks like it'll climb to just a quarter before this kicks off. I do think that there is some problematic sides to the Jogo Bonito, just trying to outscore everyone. I think you need to be more pragmatic, and really that's why Brazil is eliminated from this tournament. I don't know that France will take a lot from that, but I do think that they should use a little bit more pragmatism in their strategy, and I just don't know that they're really a side that will do that. As for England, they will be very pragmatic. They are, even when they're the better team, which I despise. It's really not the way to win matches or to advance in tournaments when you're the best team. But in this quarterfinal, they, believe it or not, they got one of the most talented sides against them, but they're actually in, I think, fairly good shape because they get to play their brand of football. They get to try to counterattack and take advantage of France, and really they're going to try to defend their tails off this whole time. Jordan Pickford in goal, he's been so good for Everton. I think he was a weak point coming into this tournament maybe a year ago, but I think he's been really strong in the club team and has looked pretty good for England so far. John Stones and Harry Maguire in the middle are scary. You can't really leave them by themselves, especially trying to defend Kylian Mbappe. That's scary. Also defending Giroud in the air, also scary. Slabhead, as they call Harry Maguire, has a big head for heading the ball away, but you just don't want him in space. And I think that kind of fits for England, and maybe that's why Southgate plays that way. I think it's more that he's just a scaredy cat, but ultimately they need to protect him, and I think that's what you see from a Declan Rice, who's more of a defensive midfielder, while I think Bellingham will play a little bit in front of him and try to create. Luke Shaw on the left, I think, is more of a creator. Kyle Walker, I wouldn't be shocked if England plays 3 center backs here just to really try to make sure that they're not going to concede to France. I think that fits. An underlean under 2.25 is the current number. I should have said that earlier, but I guess I'm just flowing through. Jordan Henderson, I feel like he's more a defensive player, does have some ability to score as well, as we saw in the last match against Senegal, but that wasn't really close from the beginning. Harry Kane, biggest creator up front. Trust him pretty much to score every penalty and certainly define the goal with his head. But I don't know that he's got a lot of goals in him. It seems like people need to find him for it, or he needs to find other people. Phil Foden's been so good for Man City, but for some reason never plays, I guess because he parties too much. But he's a very scary player. I don't know what his status will be for this one if he starts. I also don't know if Bukayo Saka is going to start. My co-host on the pregame.com podcast, Mackenzie Rivers, was mentioning or asked me directly if I thought Saka or Trippier would start. I think if they go 3 center backs with Kyle Walker as one of them, I think might even double up defensively on the right side and put Trippier in. But if they go 3 center backs, maybe they don't have to, and Saka will play more of a wingback role. With that said, England are going to be really defensive here. I think they're going to try to use counterattack, set pieces, and all those sort of things. They're very talented for a team to play that way, but it's really worked for Real Madrid in European competitions and Spain, certainly, as their La Liga champions. And I feel like Gareth Southgate has taken a page out of Carlo Ancelotti's book and is trying to play that way. And I feel like that's the way you need to play against France. So I kind of like that idea and that strategy and the pragmatism, because one team will be that way and is pretty talented. I got to say, I don't root for England. I kind of want them to lose every match possible. But I guess it makes me feel like I like kind of the setup in this matchup and how it will go for England. The biggest concern for me is the talent on the French side. Going, I guess, to two advanced lines, we have England at plus 110, France minus 130. So that's the biggest toss up, I think, so far. Yeah, because I think the Dutch went off as a 145 or 150. Yeah, so this is calling it a coin flip. There's been some money coming in that's kind of knocked this line down from a quarter. Minus 116 was the juice initially, got all the way up to minus 130, and it's climbed from there to an even higher number of minus 132. I imagine we'll still see England at plus a quarter before this kicks off. But I think my biggest interest is that under 2.25. It was as high as 2.5, but very juiced and has come back to 2.25. And now 2.25 is actually dealing minus 110. They're only doing 16-cent lines for the World Cup. I applaud you bet online for that. But it's actually a little more juice in the under right now. That's, I think, my strongest feeling on this matchup. But as I've kind of talked this way through it, I've kind of had England circled as an underdog, of course. For if anyone listens to me, you know that's the side I want to be on. But I think in talking this through, I do think that England has some opportunities to really combat France, especially on that right side for England going forward and that left side for France defending with Theo and Kylian Mbappe there. But until I get a better price quarter, I don't think that's really realistic for me to even want to get involved. I wasn't too bullish on France coming into this tournament as I picked Denmark to win their group. If I'm going to celebrate the wins, I gotta I guess take the losses. Still think France were very competitive in that, or Denmark were very competitive with France in that matchup. And I don't know that I've seen that much from France that makes me think that they're the same team that won the World Cup. They're certainly very talented and seems to have plenty of firepower to replace the injuries that they've missed out on. But maybe they aren't exactly as strong as I thought they were. And even said earlier in this podcast, when I look at their matchups and I've been pretty unimpressed with them so far. And I think the big win against Poland doesn't say much because Poland is pretty weak, are pretty weak. So that'll be, I guess, the two matches in depth. There we go. Hopefully that's what you were all looking for. Definitely hoping for another 2-0. It's unlikely, I think, statistically, but we'll see if we can go for 4-0 in this round. And then hopefully everyone will put that money into the retirement accounts, and then the Fed will stop making us poor here in the U.S. But I guess it's time for my ultimate best bet. Again, thank you for coming in. If you're watching live with me on Friday night, I'm about to go to a bar, I think, or I probably need to shower first, but then do that. If you're out in Dallas and you're around, let's grab a drink. I think I'm going to some sort of Christmas event, probably ugly sweater time is what I'm going with. But you can follow me on Twitter, the real underscore G Warner. Thank you for that. If you're watching there, if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review, and that would be really helpful for me. Also, subscribe, hit that button, or like the video on YouTube. We're getting a lot more traction there, which I appreciate. And of course, stay tuned for picks coming out on pregame. You can get my early selections, essentially what I'm planning to do for the next day, as soon as I know what that will be. But thanks for listening, and now it's time for the ultimate best bet. Winner on yesterday's show because I won all of them. So that was nice. I believe it was the Dutch plus a quarter. Definitely snuck in the back door, but I'm hoping for a little bit easier win today. For the Morocco match at 9 a.m. Central, Dallas, Texas, Saturday morning. I'm interested in Morocco getting at 3/4. I want to see a +1, I think, until I'm actually seriously considering it. I do, with that goal of insurance, I think there's a big difference between that and the 3/4. Obviously, I think my strongest lean in this one is the under 2.25. Kind of to summarize what I said earlier, I'm not sure I'm a huge believer in Portugal to score goals. And I feel like it's going to be a really tough thing for Morocco to do anything other than try to create counterattacks and try to create something out of nothing. They're going to have a lot of 1v3s, 2v4s, 2v3s. And I think it's going to be really hard for Morocco without a ton of goal scoring talent to really turn those opportunities into goals. Also don't see a ton of set pieces, but those might be very valuable to Morocco in this matchup. And as for the England-France match, I'm interested in England getting that quarter of a goal. If we get that number to pop up at a more reasonable juice at a pick 'em, I don't think it's there for me. But in a way, sort of supporting England or backing England, I think the under 2.25 is also very interesting to me. Based on how they're going to set up, they're going to try to choke France's offense as much as possible. They're probably going to keep Kyle Walker permanently man to man on Kylian Mbappe, similar to the way the Dutch had Nathan Ake one-on-one, man-to-man, just marking Lionel Messi. Love that strategy. Worked really well for a long time until, of course, Messi got a little bit loose, as he's prone to do, and had an awesome cutback pass. I mean, incredible, no look. And that probably should have gotten Argentina through then at that point, but then his penalty could have as well. But those are today's matches, and I guess it shouldn't live in the past. So those are my two, I think, strongest leans are the unders in both of these matchups. Also like that both dogs, but would like for some upward movement. I think there's nothing for me to do for England at Pick'em, and I do like Morocco a little bit at 3/4. If you want to play it and you like that side, I don't blame you. But I think there's a good chance that they lose by a single goal. So I would like that one goal of insurance. And so with all that said, my ultimate best bet will be the Morocco-Portugal under 2.25. It's pretty juiced right now. If it falls to 2, I like it less, but I still think there's going to be a tough. I mean, I think goals are going to be tough in this one. I think Portugal are going to be the aggressor, will win the possession battle. Morocco will sit very deep, but they're going to restrict space and make it really hard for Portugal to score. So under 2 plus 120 right now. I imagine it probably settles at under 2.25, maybe a little bit better juice. But I think also a 1-1 go to extra time. You get your money back. It's like a free movie. Wouldn't be the worst thing ever. But so I guess if you're okay with the juice and trying to win on a 1-to-1, I think that under 2.25 looks good. But I'm probably going to wait on it and see where it goes until kickoff. So thanks for joining again. Hit me on Twitter, @the_real_G Warner. Thank you for all the feedback I've been getting, especially if you're purchasing pregame.com packages. I was in a conversation today, and you just tell me what you guys want, and I'll try to make it available to you. It's been a great run so far in the World Cup, and trying to keep that going as we move forward from the quarterfinals into the semifinals. But everyone, enjoy what you're doing. And I hope Grant Wall is still alive, because I don't know what that's going to mean for the World Cup if something bad happened to him. But we'll leave it there, and we'll talk to everybody before these next matches, which will be in the next couple days. Probably, I think there's Tuesday, Wednesday matches. So we'll see probably a one-day special for each of these, because it seems like it's getting a lot of reviews. So hit the subscribe button, hit the likes, do all those sort of things. It helps me out a lot. And we'll look forward to some plays and hopefully winning some money tomorrow. Thanks so much.